The Monster of Canterlot, Chapter 4. The morning after my little disagreement with my cousin, I was awoken by my new maid, Dust Bunny. She had made sure she got to her new post early and had her uniform freshly cleaned and pressed. Not easy to do with a frilly dress, but she did it. Just a testament to her dedication, I guess. "Good morning, Your Majesty." "Good morning, Dust Bunny, and please, except in formal settings, call me Chris." "If that is your wish, Chris, then it shall be done. If you wish, you may simply refer to me as Bunny." She bowed. I was about to stop that too, but decided to stick with baby steps. I climbed out of bed, and after my morning duties, i.e. brushing teeth, donned my freshly cleaned tunic via Bunny. It was soft and smelled very fresh, as well as looking exceptionally clean. In fact, everything looked exceptionally clean now that I looked around. Did you clean all of this while I was still sleeping?" She nodded. "That's fantastic. Feather Duster never got my room looking like this, especially without waking me up at 1 in the morning." I reached out, and she shied away at first, but somewhat reluctantly allowed me to place my hand on her. I scratched behind her ear, every pony's weak spot for my fingers. "Thank you, Bunny." "Oh, it's the least I could do. You saved my job, my home, and you stood up for me. I told my husband what happened, and he wishes to thank you in person." "I would like that, but you know he can't. No pony outside the palace is supposed to know of my existence." Bunny hung her head a little. "I know, and I hate that. You are not a monster, and I will personally buck any pony that says otherwise." She really was upset by it. "Thank you, Bunny. I appreciate that very much." I scratched behind her ears again. This time she leaned into it a little, which made me smile. "Now come on. One more is if I'm late for breakfast." We walked to the royal dining hall together, her a few steps behind me. I've always hated that. I waved her forward with a few flicks of my wrist. She quickened her pace and trotted next to me. "So, Bunny, tell me, what's your husband's name and just what does he do?" "His name is Ironhammer, and right now he keeps house. Before that, he was a blacksmith, and a darn good one too. But the smith he worked for closed when the owner retired. That was months ago now, and we've been having trouble making ends meet since. If you hadn't come to my rescue yesterday, we would have lost everything." "Hey, what kind of prince would I be if I let the damsel in distress stay in distress?" We had reached the dining hall and went inside. Celestia was already seated at her favorite spot. I looked over and kissed her cheek. "Morning, Mother. How did you sleep?" "Very well, thanks to you." I raised an eyebrow in questioning. "You made me so very proud yesterday, even though you had to attack your cousin to do it." "Speaking of which, why is he still living in the castle after what he did?" Bunny tried very hard not to let her twitching ears give her away. "I am hoping that he is not beyond redemption. Maybe, with a little guidance, he can one day make me as proud as you do every day. And besides, if he slips again, I know who to turn to get him back on track." There was a small giggle from behind me. "Yes, well, let's just hope I don't have to." At that moment, the door to the hall slammed open, and in walked the stallion in question. His mane and tail were styled, but not as well as they usually were. Seeing as one of his eyes was swollen shut, that wasn't surprising. He went, as proudly as he could, to the table and took his seat, way down at the other end. "Good morning, cousin. How did you sleep?" I asked with a smirk that I made no attempt to conceal. I heard him mumble something, but couldn't make it out, though I could make out 2 syllables, mun and key. Now he was asking for it. "Come, cousin." I made sure to enunciate the word good and loud so he could hear it. "Why don't you dine with us down here?" He glared at me, but before he could say anything, a large eagle's talon landed on his shoulder. "Yes, don't be bashful, young stallion." Gerfon walked by him with a big grin on his beak. "Chris, I have brought something special for you this morning." He held up a covered dish, but I could already smell it. He lifted the cover, and there were 2 plates under it with cooked meat. Fatback. I wiped the drool from my mouth while Celestia did her best to hide her disgust. "You, sir, are the best uncle ever." He laughed heartily at that. After he placed the dish in front of me, I turned to Celestia. "Mom, are there any openings in the blacksmith shop?" Bunny looked between myself and Celestia with wide-eyed anticipation, who caught the motion out of the corner of her eye. "I believe there may be one left. Do you have any suggestions?" "I've heard of a stallion who's supposed to be quite skilled. His name is Ironhammer." "Very well. If you know how to get a hold of him, I will see to it he is given an opportunity." "I will see to it that it is done. Miss Dust Bunny, do you know where to reach Ironhammer?" At that moment, Bunny broke a lot of protocols and rushed to hug me. She then whispered in my ear, "Thank you so much." Later that day, I was sitting in the gardens watching Celestia and Twilight with their magic. I was under a tree with Spike curled up in my lap. He seemed to like how much heat I gave off as much as all the ponies who had the opportunity to enjoy it, namely Celestia and Twilight Sparkle. Luckily, Mother kept my salty sweat a secret from every pony. Having Twilight want my body heat is sometimes awkward enough without her wanting my sweat too. "Chris, hey, is Twilight ready yet?" "Hey, Shining." "No, not yet," I told him as he walked up and patted Spike's head. "Well, you up for some practice till she is?" I set Spike down on a curled up blanket and pulled out the wooden swords in my shield. You know it. We sparred for over an hour, both of us gaining and losing ground. We attacked and parried, we even resorted to hand-to-hoof combat. Even though I was only 14 and Shining was 18, he had trained me well enough that he himself was having trouble getting the upper hoof. Finally, we had to stop or risk being completely drained of energy. We took our seats under the tree I had been resting under before our match. Spike was still sleeping, and snoring. Bunny came up, gave us both a glass of water and a towel. We both thanked her. "Cousin!" The cheerful sing-song voice of my good cousin came from across the gardens. "Cadence!" I stood up and rushed to my favorite relative outside my mother and honorary family. She was still wearing her mane and tail tied back in, of all things, a ponytail. I always liked her hair like that. I gave her a hug. "Oh, and you brought Philomena," Celestia's pet phoenix. "Looking beautiful as always." "Who, me or the bird?" "The bird, duh." We both laughed and Philomena cawed and fluttered up to perch on my shoulder. "Hello, Cadence," Shining said as he approached. I still don't know why he tried to act cool and discreet around the Princess of Love. Surely she could tell as well as I that he was carrying a flame for her. "How are you?" "I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm glad to see you taking such good care of my cousin." "Of course. He's a friend and a good colt. Besides, sparring with something other than a pony is good practice." "Oh-ho, so it's my ape-like features you're after, is it?" "You bet. How else am I going to be the best guard ever?" "Heck, I bet if you keep training with me, you'll be able to hold off an invasion all by yourself someday," I teased. "I'm sure you will, but for now, just make sure you look out for my little cousin." She rubbed my hair with her hoof. "Little? I'm as tall as you are." "Maybe, but I'm still a few years older than you, so you'll always be my little cousin." I still don't think she knew just what that statement meant to me. Even this far along, I was still being shunned by a few of the ponies that did know I was here and hidden from the rest. I loved my family, most of it, and cherished my friends, but I wanted more. In the next few years, I decided I would just take it. By the time I was 17, I was taller than Celestia by a few inches, and I had started to get a little rebellious. 11 years of being hidden away will do that. Now, just because I was rebellious didn't mean I was mean or vengeful, just stupid. I still loved and respected Celestia, and tried to make sure I never shamed her or made her work to keep the populace calm, meaning I kept hidden and to myself. I would sometimes sneak out when Celestia was in court and Twilight was in school. I'd climb across the rooftops and silently watch the ponies on the road below. If I got hungry, I would snatch something when no pony was looking and leave the bits, with a little extra for the inconvenience. Most times I would be caught by a Pegasus guard or found by Philomena. I would never fight or resist and would always get scolded. I'll sneak out again anyway. I tried to excuse myself by saying I was just testing the guards, but that only worked a couple of times. One day I pushed it a little too far. I fell through a skylight I was looking through. Luckily, I landed on a stockpile of fabric in the back of the shop. I knew I was in trouble, though. For one thing, this was going to cost more bits than I had. Another thing was, I had been seen. "I say, are you all right there?" I looked up from my pile of cushion and into the face of a white unicorn stallion with white fur and blue hair. His mane tail and tiny mustache were styled so well it would put Blue Blood to shame. His tuxedo and monocle screamed money, but his mannerisms and speech pattern spoke of class. Class and wealth often walk hoof and hoof, but can't exist without the other. For example, Dust Bunny has class, but no money, while Blue Blood is in a classless class all his own. "I think so. How about you? You weren't hit by anything, were you?" No, I'm quite alright. Though you looked from the damaged inventory to the open skylight. I'm afraid I can't say the same for my store. I'm so sorry about that. I promise I'll pay you back." I'm far less concerned with that than I am with your health, Mr. I stood up and proffered a hand to him. Chris Soul, sir. He shook my hand. And you are... My name is Fancy Pants. Now, I know it's terribly rude of me, but what manner of creature are you? Oh, I take no offense. I'm a human, a relative of primates. I didn't really want to mention the whole other planet thing just yet. I see. Interesting. You're not afraid? Why? Should I be? No, I don't want to hurt any pony. Then I won't be. The door opened and in walked another unicorn, a mare this time. She was tall and lean and gorgeous. Her fur was also white, but had a slight tinge of purple. Her hair was two-toned pink and her eyes violet. I recognized her from some of the pictures in the guard's locker room. She was Fleur de Lis. Dear, is everything all... Yep, there it was. The fear-induced muscle walk. I hated it every time. Yes, of course, Fleur. Come in and meet the most interesting young colt. His name is Chris Soul. He is a human. Eventually, she was able to move again and approached us. Did you say Chris? I nodded. I've heard that name. Do you know a maid in the royal palace named Dust Bunny? Yes, I know her. Why do you ask? She comes into the shop every now and then. Every time she does, she speaks of a young colt named Chris, who came to her rescue in her time of need and pulled her family from the brink of death. If you are this Chris, then you are to be honored. Thank you, but I was just doing what was right. Any stallion would have done the same thing, I told her. Nonsense, Fancy Pants spoke up. A courageous act should be commended and rewarded. Well, now that you mention it, I could use a lift home. 15 minutes later, the carriage we were riding in pulled up to the main gate. 2 minutes after that, we were in the throne room. The ponies were now shaken at the sight of the fuming solar princess. I was merely avoiding her gaze. And just what do you have to say for yourself? Your Highness, we were... Celestia cut off Fancy Pants. Not you. She then pointed at me with a gold-plated hoof. You. And don't say you're sorry if you're not. Alright then, I won't. I wanted to go outside these walls, so I did. No pony saw me. Well, until I fell through this stallion's skylight, that is. He and his wife brought me back here. Her eyes gave her away. She was worried about me. Then they will be reimbursed for the damage you have caused, and they will also have my thanks. You, on the other hoof, shall be grounded for 2 weeks. Oh, Mom! Oops. I quickly realized what I had just said and clamped my hands over my mouth. Whoa. Princess, did this human just... Again, Fancy Pants was cut off and received the scowl of a lifetime. Yes, this is my son, your prince. His existence has not been announced out of concern for how the public might react. I would ask that you respect my wishes in this regard. Of course, Princess, I understand. May I add, the prince is a fine young colt, and you should be proud of him? Believe me, I am, though sometimes he tries my patience. I think he simply enjoys the challenge. She grinned, only for a second, but I caught it. Now, I'm afraid I must ask you to go. Please send the repair bill to the palace, and it shall be paid. Yes, your majesty. I wish you and Prince Chris a good stay, and I hope to see you again, young prince. As do I, Mr. Fancy Pants, Miss Lee. I bowed, and they returned the gesture to me and Celestia before they turned to leave. Once they were gone, I turned to Celestia to await my scolding. Instead, she hugged me and quickly began to inspect my body. Are you alright? You didn't get cut, did you? No, Mom, I'm alright. Thank goodness. For a second, I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. She lifted my hand and swatted the back of it. Now, off to your room. No dinner. Also, understand, I only do this because I love you so very much. I know, Mom. I love you too. I kissed her on the cheek before I turned to head off to my room. If it weren't for Bunny sneaking me a snack, that would have been a miserable night indeed. And that's how I met my first friends outside the gates.